Welcome to our continuing series, Explorations in Savitri. And as always, it is an honor to have with us Alok Bhai. Namaste. O radiant fountain of the world's delight, world free and unattainable above, O bliss who ever dwellst deep hid within, while men seek the outside and never find, mystery and muse with hieratic tongue, incarnate the white passion of thy force, mission to earth some living form of thee, one moment fill with thy eternity, let thy infinity in one body live. All knowledge wrap one mind in seas of light, all love throb single in one human heart. Immortal, treading the earth with mortal feet, all heaven's beauty crowd in earthly limbs. Omnipotence, girdled with the power of God, movements and moments of a mortal will, pack with the eternal might one human hour, and with one gesture change all future time. Let a great word be spoken from the heights, and one great act unlock the doors of fate.
Thank you, Narad. I understand it's a very special day for Brother Narad. I know he won't say this. It happens to be late Mary Helen's birthday. So, to read these wonderful lines about the Divine Mother's advent, which all nature seeks, to tread with her feet, to heal with her feet, the aching throb of life. And see, when we see Savitri, and someone had sent me some link about Divine Mother in various traditions. Well, it's not just about worshipping the Divine Mother in various traditions. That is, of course, there. It's well known. Whether it be, of course, Indian tradition has given a great importance. The Tantras and many other, even Vedas, do mention about the Divine Mother. But it's there in Christian tradition, Jewish tradition, the Kabbalah, the Islamic tradition, Sufi mysticism. There is the worship of the Divine Mother. But what is special and specific about Savitri is the incarnation of the Divine Mother. And I think incarnation of the Divine Mother and stepping in the forefront of the human quest means a change of balance, a tilt of the balance between the feminine and the masculine elements in creation. Mother hints at this when she speaks to the women in Japan.
Yes.
She says that India, she speaks of India also at one point, and she says it's a land of contraries. And she says on one side there is the worship of the Shakti, and yet on the other side there is a neglect of the feminine. And it was universally true, because if you see really throughout the history of the race, there is a tilt toward the masculine element. Escape, Vedanta, the great incarnations, the tendency to live in the world of ideas. And even when there have been great feminine vibhutis and incarnations, but they have gone unnoticed. And so with the mother, Divine Mother taking a feminine form, someone was asking me some days back that why do you, the soul has no gender. It is neither masculine nor feminine. I said yes, but what to do? Divine Mother has taken a certain body. So that body becomes something special for all of us, because she has chosen to. It's true that the soul has no gender, and if we talk about the Divine Mother, she is neither man nor woman in the highest sense. She is, we use the word she to, because that's how we are habituated. But she is beyond he and she. She is the power, the supreme knowledge as well as power, both in one. And the delight, oh bliss, what gender would you speak of bliss? Oh bliss, whoever dwellest deep hid within, while men seek the outside and never find. But she chose to take up a certain body, and because of that, there is a certain readjustment of the balance, which means many things. It's not just about human forms, women empowerment, that's one part of it. But say, for instance, earth. Now, Greeks worship the feminine as Gaia, the earth principle. So we'll suddenly see that, human beings will once again begin to respect earth, begin to feel for earth and earthly energies, because it's a tilt towards that. It would also mean emergence of the soft powers, as it is called. The feminine powers are very different from the masculine powers. And it would also mean that this creation which has suffered so much from deprivation of love, I feel that is one of the maladies of the centuries, not just century. If I look through the history of the races, and if we are not biased with, oh, this is wonderful, this is grand, then we will see that there is such a depravity of love. Just see 100 years, 200 years back, and humanity was so barbaric. I really can't imagine that, people were guillotined, they were hung on the trees, and what not? And this was cool and even regarded as something, sign of heroism. Take from the time of Troy right up till now, or even before, even during the time of Mahabharata, and the feminine has never been really given that due place, which means that when it came to practically organizing life, there has been a certain mess all through. And right from Ramayana times, I take Sita's symbolic disappearance back into earth as a sign that the earth was not yet ready for the full blossoming of the feminine element. She represents that. So I think Mother's coming, her divine advent, also indicates that the energies which have been neglected, particularly of love, they will once again nourish human heart, the impoverished human heart.
I'm doing a short series on new birth, in which, let me just get that a moment. Sri Aurobindo writes, the idea of a spiritual motherhood is not an invention of this ashram. It is an eternal truth which has been recognized for ages past, both in Europe and in Asia. The distinction I have drawn between the physical relationship and the psychic and spiritual relation is also not a new invention. It is an idea known and understood everywhere, and found to be perfectly plain and simple by all.
So, just the background, this letter, as far as I remember, was written to Dara.
Yes, I think
Who
so.
found it very difficult. Though in Islamic tradition, you have the idea of spiritual motherhood.
Yeah.
I think she is known as Fatima, the daughter of the... But everywhere she has been neglected, all the traditions. Now, the beauty, the change which takes place with the coming of the Divine Mother is that the focus changes. The focus of yoga, old yogas, is toward the skies. So, the masculine element which wants to go higher and higher in the ideative realm. Whereas now the focus is on earth. How those great truths can manifest on earth. So, Mother's coming also means that the coming of all these profound truths which human beings experienced in their inner being must become realizable in the body, and they must express themselves in earthly life. And repeatedly Mother says, this is one of the challenges in the agenda we read, that she says all the forces, they come and tell me, it's all right, you have all these, you may have all these experiences and realizations within, but it's of no use. Material field remains just as it is. And in Savitri we see death repeatedly saying
Yeah.
that this field remains what it is. So it's fine, you go up and have these experiences. So this idea earlier in previous spirituality, there was a lot of stress on inner experiences. Even sometimes, here there is a tendency,
Yeah.
people begin to, oh, what experiences you have. It's not important. What have we really brought down to earth? And Sri Aurobindo says, nothing is done if the outer nature doesn't change.
All we have done is ever still to do.
Yes. So here the whole stress changes, and since it means, that's why I thought, and keeping in mind the, human love in any form has its own dignity, and I think, it should not be belittled or trivialized. It has its own beauty and should become, and that's what we see in Savitri. One of the differences I find in the previous note of Savitri and the present, Sri Aurobindo started it as earth and the beyond. It's interesting. There is earth and there is the beyond. Now in the Savitri as it exists today, you see what is the last canto? Return to earth.
Yes.
Nalnida speaks about it that these are the three stages of evolution. First we are in ignorance, and we have to then concentrate, go through a narrow gate into the one who alone is eternal, real, true, the Vedantic truth. But then, having gained that, we have to come back and express it in earthly life, and that's a very big challenge. And I don't think that we can speak about Sri Aurobindo's yoga without simultaneously speaking about this movement.
Yes.
And it's not for nothing that in the epilogue, so if it's okay, I just thought we can read some lines from here.
Sure.
The return to earth.
Page?
So this is page 715, this canto, but I'll read from somewhere on page 717. Now Savitri has come back, and she has come back after the having donned the mask of death, having had the vision of the glory of glories, having stood face to face with the Supreme. And she has brought down this boon to earth and men. She could become now the yogis of yogis. But look, this canto which Sri Aurobindo has put toward the end,
Yeah.
what does it mean to live this life? We still have the idea, the old idea of the yogin, the sannyasi, somebody who is withdrawn from life, and the ascetic idea. And it is so strong. Sri Aurobindo repeatedly says it has to be broken. In fact, Mother goes on to say, they are of no use to me. I prefer those who are still in life and connected with life, even if in ignorance, because something I can do upon them. But the sannyasis, even she says that they are people who can be very dangerous.
Yes.
And still our whole idea of spiritual life is the life of the sannyasi. But look, Savitri. So page 717. It's a beautiful scene that Satyavani is lying asleep. Actually, he doesn't know what has happened. He has died and come back. And suddenly he breathes to the touch of Savitri. Look the delicacy and the beauty of these lines.
Whence?
Then sighing to her touch, the soft winged sleep rose hovering from his flower-like lids and flew murmurous away. Awake, he found her eyes. Even as sheer poetry, it is marvelous, that whole scene.
Yes.
Satyavani is lying in Savitri's lap and she has brought him back. And he opens, the first thing he sees is Savitri's eyes. Waiting for his, look the perfection, and felt her hands and saw the earth his home given back to him once more. Satyavani is the soul in man. It has come to manifest perfection here. This is the home. So, and her made his again, his passions all. With his arms encircling hold around her locked, a living knot to make possession close. He murmured with hesitating lips her name, and vaguely recollecting wonder cried, Whence hast thou brought me back captive? Whence hast thou brought me captive back, love chained to thee and sunlight's walls? O golden beam and casket of all sweetness, Savitri, Godhead and woman, moonlight of my soul. For surely I have travelled in strange worlds, by thee companioned, a pursuing spirit. Together we have disdained the gates of night. I have turned away from the celestial joy and heaven's insufficient without thee. Look, what is the marvel, to what levels Sri Aurobindo is taking love. Not just a love which is in the beyond and enters into the ineffable. We have disdained night.
Yes.
We have left behind death. And we have also discovered that heaven is insufficient without this need to have something concrete as a form. It's not without reason that the divine has just picked up matter to express himself. I mean, unless we feel that he did everything wrong and we have to correct the wrong by the one right thing is to go back. So, where now has passed that formidable shape which rose against us, the spirit of the void, claiming the world for death and nothingness, denying God and soul? Or was all a dream or vision seen in a spiritual sleep? Something he has felt. And now, few lines below, Savitri's reply.
Yeah.
But she replied, our parting was the dream. This comes in some of other poems of Sri Aurobindo, where he says that parting is the dream. Togetherness is, eternal togetherness. We are together. We live. O Satyavan, look round thee and behold, glad and unchanged, our home, this forest with its thousand cries, and the whisper of the wind among the leaves, and through rifts in emerald seen the evening sky, God's canopy of blue sheltering our lives, and the birds crying for heart's happiness, winged poets of our solitary reign, our friends on earth where we are king and queen. Again, even when Sri Aurobindo describes, I'll read that part also, it's very powerful, where Savitri has, discovered not only her soul, all the centers have opened. Then what is her state? So Sri Aurobindo describes it very interestingly, that she comes back. Yeah. See Savitri, who has now discovered her soul, all these centers have opened. So there is already, the pouring down of the higher and higher states of consciousness. But look how Sri Aurobindo describes. This is on page 551. I have just gone back behind. The old beauty smiled of the terrestrial scene. See, repeatedly Sri Aurobindo brings back. We don't have to become oblivious to beauty. We have to stop this tendency to shun anything which is, as if it's a sin, as if it's some, it's a snare, it's a moha in which you are trapped. Yes, we can ignorantly play with it, or we can have the same truth very consciously. And that's where the line lies. It's a thin line, it's a slippery slope, but at one point man has to negotiate through it. She too was her old gracious self to men. The ancient mother clutched her child to her breast, pressing her close in her environing arms, as if earth ever the same could forever keep the living spirit and body in her clasp. As if death were not there, nor end, nor change, accustomed only to read outward signs, none saw aught new in her, none divined her state. they saw a person where was only God's vast. And Mother herself, she actually manifested it. We cannot imagine somebody who at the age of 21, before 21, has realized identity with God and, has had those rarest of rare experiences of which somebody would give many lives, and she was just having them so easily. She would start playing tennis, she would go to department, she would play, she would have, all kinds of activities with everyone. And in the beginning, when I used to come, I asked some people, because it's such a joy to know, what was it to be with the mother. And sure enough, some of them told, some people who have grown up from childhood, you said, yes, I know you think it is a great advantage, but we don't know. We just kept seeing her as a human mother.
Took her for granted.
Took her for granted. And she was such a perfect, even as a human mother, that they could never care to go deeper and see beyond. Because she became human, came so close to her. This only the Divine Mother can do. That she would just come, walk with us and lift us up and, play with us all kinds of games with children,
Yes.
which includes Ringa Ringa Roses. Can you imagine playing Ringa Ringa Roses with Divine Mother? I just can't imagine, playing below. Yeah, so, now people are so strict sometimes, they don't make sound and this. And Mother has played Ringa Ringa Roses right below, even in her own room. So what kind of love? And yet, look where there was only God's past. Once he tells them that, 1960, 29th February, that I am going to distribute medals. So you please, because Krishna had come and she was playing with Krishna also. Krishna tells her that, there will be no place for you. Laughed and said, golden Krishna. So he said, there will be no place for you. I know you have arranged, just see. So Mother kept quiet. So she told them, she didn't tell about Krishna or anything. She said, you keep the space, don't, because she wanted to keep some space for Krishna. So she said, don't put anything there and I will come and arrange. But she comes and says everybody had already put nice things in the footstool, on the side stool, because, they had no clue. As usual, they had arranged. So she looks at it and then she says, all right, because Krishna is now seated there. So then she suddenly experiences something very unique. Annul thyself that only God may be. And she is nowhere and everywhere. And Krishna distributes the medal, but apparently people are seeing there is the Divine Mother sitting and giving the medal. Because she completely entered into that vast. This I find very fascinating. It's possible to engage with all our human activities, but in that high transcendent state. And people ask Sri Aurobindo that, is it really possible to engage in karma in a Sachidananda state? He says, good Lord, what else I have been saying all this, volumes on essays on the Gita. What else I have been saying, writing, myself doing? Is it possible to engage? Because we still have the idea that the person who lives in that state is withdrawn from life, he doesn't engage, he is to use a very, he is a sadhu bacha, he must look with a little pensive eyes, he can't laugh, he's not supposed to. Now, they have reversed everything. So we have these, we can come back to these lines. So she describes, and how beautifully she says on page 718, only our souls have left death's night behind. That's all that is required. The shadow to be pushed out. That's how life can become beautiful and divine, because in its origin it is divine. And death's night is all the doubts and difficulties and obstacles and impossibilities. It cannot be, it has never happened so far. It will not be. Yoga means withdrawal into some Himalayan region, go inside and don't care about this. So all these 100 doubts that death throws to deny the divine life. And now it comes in peculiar ways, because everybody, so now, earlier it used to be, has Sri Aurobindo and the mother, have they achieved supramental, how we can, now it comes, oh, they have also gone. How can humanity be transformed? It's not possible. Let's go to some nearby Baba. Enough of Babas. If Baba's is the end of life on earth, then better, I feel it's not worthwhile. But we are so enamored by Babas, no? The moment you see somebody with a saffron or white cloth, I'm sorry, but I get,
It's all right.
I have my issues with this. Enough of that. Just be, and Mother says why the ashram was created, among other things. One of the things he says, so that we can learn to live normally and be free. And this, she says, I wonder why it is so difficult for human beings to live normally and be free. To be free inside and live normally. You don't have to do anything abnormal. You are doing the same thing but with a different consciousness. And it may sound very simple, but it's very difficult. The moment you try to do it, because death is standing there, that fellow, that shadow created by us, changed by a mighty dream's reality. You will say, no, I exist originally. Yes, but man's mind has made too much out of him. Mother says that.
Yeah.
When she was asked that death, why is it he mentioned as a god? So Mother says, in the human consciousness, he has become a god.
Yes.
We have given so much importance to death, But when I look at some of these ancients, some of those beings of a heroic nature who were so close to the divine, they didn't care a jot about death,
Yeah.
as if it didn't exist. What does it matter, death or life?
In the West, in certain Christian traditions, they say death is simply a door to let life walk through.
Absolutely. So that whole importance, and death spurs us. Oh, we may die. So we are always as if busy catching a train. Oh, we may die. We have died 1,000 times. There is a famous mystic, Maulana Rum, Sufi mystic. He says, why should I be afraid of dying? I died a mineral and became a plant. And it's true.
Yes, that's beautiful.
The mineral is absorbed into the plant. I died a plant and became an animal. It's true that animal absorbs even if you leave aside the rebirth, just see the cycle. I died an animal and became a man. Why should I be afraid of dying?
Yes.
This fear, which all the time haunting us.
And Mother says, you have been with me through many, many births, or you wouldn't be here now.
Yes. So she says that we have left death's night behind, changed by a mighty dream's reality, illumined by the light of symbol worlds and the stupendous summit self of things, and stood at Godhead's gates, limitless, free. Then when we come back, we stay as free beings. And then,
Can I read a little bit from What High Change?
yes, please.
What high change is in thee, O Savitri! Bright ever thou wast, a goddess still and pure, yet dearer to me by thy sweet human parts, earth gave thee, making thee yet more divine. My adoration mastered, my desire bent down to make it subject, my daring clasp, claiming by body and soul my life's estate, rapture's possession, love's sweet property, a statue of silence in my templed spirit, a yearning Godhead and a golden bride. But now thou seemst almost too high and great for mortal worship.
Wow.
Time lies below thy feet, and the whole world seems only a part of thee.
What lovely. And then he still aspires. Next page we have these lines. If to fill these thou lift thy sacred flight, my human earth will still demand thy bliss. Make still my life through thee a song of joy, and all my silence wide and deep with thee. It reminds me of a letter, or part of a letter of Sri Aurobindo. where he says, I have not come here to create mutts. Mutts, is monasteries or sannyasis. I have come here to call the souls of the strong to the Leela of Krishna and Kali. Another place in another aphorism he says something similar in different way. Maybe
Who can bear Krishna?
no, where the strongest boy in the crowd and probably we can, by the time we read, I'm sure Anmol would have taken out. He speaks about that is the ideal. And if you see even the way Shobindra and the mother have eventually made this place evolve in that direction, it's amazing. So while it comes out, then what does Savitri reply? Could you get it?
I'm trying.
Yeah. So she says, Savitri's reply, all now is changed, yet all is still the same. Marvelous lines. All now is changed, yet all is still the same. Lo, we have looked upon the face of God. Our life has opened with divinity. We have borne identity with the Supreme and known His meaning in our mortal lives. Our love has grown greater by that mighty touch and learned its heavenly significance. Yet nothing is lost of mortal love's delight. Look, can we imagine this? What hides both spiritual and human is taken to. And now when I look back on many of these stories of in the Indian context, the other day only I was having a discussion means I was just sharing some thoughts with one of the gurus, and he knows me, and he was speaking about. So I told him, I said, see, in Indian thought, it's very interesting that Shiva is regarded as the Lord of Tapasya, and he is a supreme ascetic, and he is married. What a reconciliation. And how could that, and not just married, you will see, it's described, they are playing a game. They are playing the game of dice, where Shiva knows everything, and Parvati says, well, if I also know everything, there can be no game. So I will choose not to know anything, though I can know. So she says, I will not know anything, you know everything, and now we'll play the game. And that game decides the destiny of mankind, where he knows all what is going to happen, because she has chosen to wail, and we see this wonderful, story, and everything. It's amazing, and even Sri Aurobindo at one place, I remember somebody asked him that what books, Champaklalji asked him, or Punam Chand, one of them asked him that what book you advise. So one of them he advised was Prakriti Rahasya, Secret of Nature. He said, you read this book. It's there in Gujarati. So we can't, So this is the aphorism which I was referring to. When will the world change into the model of heaven? When all mankind becomes boys and girls together with God revealed as Krishna and Kali. The happiest boy and strongest girl of the crowd. Look, he has used the word strongest, girl of the crowd, playing together in the gardens of paradise. The Semitic Eden was well enough, but Adam and Eve were too grown up. I love this line. What a touch of humor. They should have been just children of the divine, playing together. How wonderful. We're too grown up, and it's God Himself too old and stern and solemn for the offer of the serpent to be resisted. They were too grown up, and God was too stern and solemn and strict. God. Look. This I must read this also. The Semites have afflicted mankind with the conception of a God who is a stern and dignified king and solemn judge and knows not mirth. But we who have seen Krishna know him for a boy fond of play and a child full of mischief and happy laughter. Thank you. So these lines are beautiful, and with that we can wind up. Our love has grown greater by that mighty touch and learned its heavenly significance, yet nothing is lost of mortal love's delight. Heaven's touch fulfills, but cancels not our earth. This we have to learn. Yes. Heaven's touch fulfills, but cancels not our earth. Our bodies need each other in the same last. Still in our breasts repeat heavenly secret rhythm. Our human heartbeats passionately close. Still am I she who came to thee mid the murmur of sunlit leaves upon this forest verge. I am the Madran, I am Savitri. All that I was before, I am to thee still, close comrade of thy thoughts and hopes and toils. All happy contraries I would join for thee. All sweet relations marry in our life. I am thy kingdom, even as thou art mine, the sovereign and the slave of my desire. Look, this is a perfect relation between Prakriti and Purusha. When Mother was asked what is the truth behind the attraction between man and a woman, she said, Purusha and Prakriti, the truth of Purusha and Prakriti. Thy prone possessor, sister of thy soul, and mother of thy wants, thou art my world. The earth I need, the heaven my thoughts desire, the world I inhabit, and the God I adore. Thy body is my body's counterpart, whose every limb my answering limb desires, whose heart is key to all my heartbeats. This I am, and thou to me, O Satyavan. Our wedded walk through life begins anew. No gladness lost, no depth of mortal joy. Let us go through this new world that is the same, for it is given back, but it is known, a playing ground and dwelling house of God who hides himself in bird and beast and man. Sweetly to find himself again by love, by oneness. I don't think there can be any perfect rounding up of Sri Aurobindo's yoga than these lines. It requires a breaking of old molds. And it's true, people often argue, but this dangerous is dangerous. When Nalnida was asked, it's dangerous, he said, yes, you will say, I am asking you to play with fire. Well, I am asking you to play with fire. These are his words. But without that, there can be no perfection established. We'll again become ascetics and wandering monks, rejoicing in the bowl songs of. But if that was the case, there was no need of creation at all. The mystery of married earth and heaven.